This is a brand new Canyon Endurace CFR, the German company's latest comfort-focused drop bar road bike since they first launched a model back in 2014. This one is trying very hard to be a race bike. I mean, we have deep section wheels, big gears, and for the first time, a one-piece aero handlebar and stem. Now, endurance bikes have been massively popular for the last 10 years or so because they offer a nice blend of comfort, speed, and that laid-back geometry. But they are threatened, both by race bikes that now take wide tyres and aero bikes that won't beat you up anymore, and on the outside, gravel bikes that take massive wide tyres. You can swap the wheels and tyres as you need and offer way more versatility and capability for a wider range of riding situations. So who on earth in 2023 is buying a bike like this? In this video, we'll find out. We'll go through all the features and upgrades on this new bike, talk about the price, weight, how it compares to a race bike, and of course, we'll go for a ride and assess it for performance, handling, climbing, and descending. Because I'm David, and you're watching Just Ride Bikes. Let's dive in. So let's set the scene. An endurance bike needs to offer several things: more comfort than a race bike, laid-back geometry, and space for wide tyres. And this new bike ticks all those boxes. You can fit up to a 35mm wide tyre. We have more laid-back geometry than a race bike, and loads of comfort, in part thanks to that unique split seat post back there. This one is a bit special though, and the clue is in the name, CFR. It represents the pinnacle of Canyon's technical knowledge and engineering know-how. We have the best of the best carbon fibre to make the frame as light as possible, and then we have the best components from the best brands in the business: DT Swiss wheels, Shimano Duro Di2, and we even have a 3D printed computer mount on the handlebar as well. Very snazzy indeed. That does mean a hefty price tag though. This bike here is £9,000, but the range does start at £3,500, and that looks like the best value for money option, and I doubt that model lacks much of the performance of this one here. This one though is very lightweight indeed. Size medium with no pedals, weighs 7.16 kilograms on my scales, and that is damn impressive for what is essentially not a race bike, not trying to be as light as possible. And we have deep section wheels and a power meter as well. Does an endurance bike need to be aerodynamic as well? Well, this one is, and it's a good question really of whether you need aero on an endurance bike. And lots of people make the mistake of thinking that aero only matters to pro riders riding at high speeds, because that's where all the manufacturers do their testing. But aero matters to everybody, even at slow speeds. And if you're riding a course, a sporty, say, at slow speeds, you are facing the air and the wind more of the time. So you stand to benefit just as much as a pro. And if you can get aero savings with no real downside to comfort, you'll have more left in the tank for the end of the ride or that final big climb, which you might get in something like the Etape du Tour. So for the first time, the Endurace gets the same CP00018, snappy name, right? Aero cockpit as on the Aero and the Ultimate. And this new handlebar is apparently worth 7 watts, but get this, tested at 45 kilometers per hour, which is fine if your name is Mattia van der Poel, but I'm not sure how realistic that is for us mere mortals riding a bike like this at normal, sensible speeds. But fitting this handlebar to the bike does have me scratching my head a little bit. I get the aero benefits, but not sure if they're really that well placed on a bike like this where comfort is the main focus. And personally, I'd rather have a narrower section along the top and more bar tape up to about there for those times when you're riding along on the tops, talking to your friends, your buddies, and admiring the views. You're not chasing the speed and the watts like you do on a race bike. And the other problem is it's bloody difficult to fit any accessories to the handlebar: lights, computers, phones, whatever it is. But in Canyon's defense, they do have a nice computer mount with a light bracket underneath, but you are compromised if you are using a bike for long all-axes perhaps, or the occasional weekday commute where you might want to slap a light onto the handlebar. And now we get to the party trick of this bike. It literally has a trick hidden up its sleeve, sort of. Now, integration of storage is becoming popular on mountain bikes and gravel bikes, and now coming to road bikes, because we have a trap door here. It sort of looks like the battery compartment on a TV remote, but you lift it up and out slides this neoprene snake, and inside this neoprene snake are tools. So we have inside here a CO2 canister, a multi-tool, and other bits and bobs to get you back on the road when you have a mechanical. But I'm not really sure if this is the best execution, because the top tube is very slim, the very small space, these tools are very small. And rather unusually for Canyon, it has to be said, they're being a bit measly, because while you do get the neoprene snake here, none of the tools and the canister are provided. You have to buy it separately. And I don't have any tools at home in my toolkit that are small enough to fit in here. So an extra cost on top of an already expensive bike. So nice idea, love the concept, but the execution, I'm not so sure to be honest. Would I want my 9 grand bike to have what looks like a TV remote battery compartment on the top tube? I'm not so sure to be honest, not so sure. Comfort is the main reason for buying an endurance bike, and here the Endurace really impresses on 2 fronts. Firstly, the geometry is more laid back than a race bike, and that puts the handlebars higher and closer to you. If you're riding once or twice a week, this is a better fit for you than a race bike. And then the other reason for the amazing comfort of this Endurace is this seat post, their VCLS, which many of you probably know and already have. It's a very unique split carbon fiber seat post that allows up to 20 mil of back and forth movement, but how much movement you get depends on the roads you're riding on and how much you weigh. I'm not sure if I can really feel 20 millimeters of movement, but you do really notice it working compared to a fixed carbon seat post. And then the third component of the comfort of the bike are the wide tyres. The frame and fork will take up to a 35 mil wide tyre, and the bike comes spec'd with an interesting mix of a narrow front tyre and a wide rear tyre. So we have a 30 at the front for more aero, then a 32 at the back for more comfort, because more of your weight's at the back of the bike, so on a bigger volume, and there's less weight at the front where aero is a factor, so a narrow front tyre makes a lot of sense. I might try it on my own giant TCR over the next few weeks and see whether a narrow front tyre and a wide rear tyre is the way to go. Another gripe is the lack of any mudguard or fender mounts on the frame and fork. I don't think there's any excuse for an endurance road bike not to have eyelets for mudguards. I know fitting mudguards is a very British thing, but they are very sensible, even in the summer, like now when it is raining. Being able to fit some mudguards and go out for a ride and not get absolutely plastered from all the rain and mud and other stuff on the roads is a fantastic benefit. And when you have all this generous clearance, being able to fit some mudguards seems a no-brainer. And for me, it's another nail in the coffin of an endurance bike like this, and another reason to choose a gravel and adventure bike. And probably another factor why gravel bikes are becoming so popular, because they offer more versatility for mudguards and also extra bottles and bags for long distance riding, which is becoming very popular. Okay, gripes aside, this is a very lovely bike to ride, and it's the comfort that most impresses. The smoothness is just incredible. It floats over the roads, potholes just disappear underneath you. You don't notice them at all, just remarkable. The bendy seat post and the wide tyres work so well together. But don't think it's slow, don't think these fat tyres sacrifice speed, because this is one seriously quick bike. It's not quite as electric or agile feeling as a race bike like the company's own Ultimate, but it gets up to speed really nicely, and once you get up to speed it's really stable and calm and reassuring too. The big tyres help there, as does the geometry, so a bit longer in the wheelbase and a bit slacker in the angles, and makes it a very pleasant experience when you're barreling down a steep descent, to give you more confidence than a race bike, which can be kind of agile, which is a good thing, or twitchy, which is not so good. The bike is not twitchy at all. And that really is the sort of handling you want for a bike designed for sporties and grand fondos and going the distance, where you want that comfort, you want that calm, reassured handling, never gonna throw up any unpredictability or catch you out when you're tired and fatigued. So on that front, it's a fantastic combination. It climbs very well too, low weight, high stiffness helps on that front. But I do think a compact chain set rather than the 52-36 would help. It definitely helped me a lot, as my fitness is not really up to pushing these big gears up these hills. I'm not really sure why we had quite a racy setup on an endurance bike like this, but there we go. With space and wide tyres, you could encounter light gravel or dirt roads quite happily, but here in the UK, in a typically wet summer, you'd be knee deep in mud if you do go off-road. But the wide tyres for the country lanes I ride on, which right now are covered in dirt and gravel and cow poo, these tyres give you that extra reassurance, a bit of extra grip, and really look after you. Where a race bike on skinny rubber can feel a little bit skittish on these sort of roads, because they're not riding big main roads like the pros are when they're closed, having to contend with very badly maintained back country lanes to stay away from the traffic, and for the pleasant experience riding on the myriad of country lanes the UK has to offer. To answer the opening question, does the new Endurace do enough to justify its position? Is it still worth buying over a race or gravel bike? As impressive as it is, I'm not convinced. Unless you need the geometry, you can get impressive comfort from the ultimate race bike with 32mm wide tyres. And for really big tyres and maximum versatility, a gravel bike is a practical choice. Not much slower on the road with similar tyres and has potential to do so much more. There is a lot of clear overlap between these three categories, but focusing on your precise needs and requirements will steer you towards the right bike. So the new Endurace impresses, as it always does, but it feels like the last hurrah for the endurance bike rather than a category advancing product, and isn't doing enough to convince me that a gravel bike isn't a better option. So a very niche product for sure. Anyway, let me know what you think of this review by leaving a comment down below, if it's a bike for you and if you disagree or agree with my assessment of this new bike. If you want to find out more about the bike, I'll put a link to the Canyon website down below. And if you want to see some other endurance bikes in this category, then do watch this video right up here. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel by hitting the button right down here. But that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon.